Hello everyone, my name is Olivia and welcome to another Books and Brews episode. This is a series on my channel where I tell you about a couple of books that I have read recently while I drink a cup of coffee, or a version of coffee. Today I have a mocha frappuccino with oat milk in it because I can't digest regular dairy, so let's get right into it so I can tell you about 5 books that I've read recently that I have really enjoyed and want to recommend to you all. So the first one that I want to talk about is one of my favorite reads of 2021. This is one of my singular 5-star reads that I have given out this year, and I think you all know what it will be if you've seen a couple of videos before this one. And it is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kamali. We follow our main character, Roya. She is living in 1950s Iran, and there's a lot of political upheaval during that time, so she finds solace in a stationery shop. She visits that shop frequently, and there she meets Bahman. Bahman is a man who is said to change the world, and they quickly begin a romance with one another. And one day Roya is going to meet Bahman in a town square when violence erupts and there is a coup happening in Iran, and Roya quickly has to get away from the scene, and she tries to contact Bahman but he never answers, and Roya just kind of settles in her heart and realizes that she's never going to see him again until 60 years later. This is not a spoiler, it's in the synopsis. 60 years later, she has the opportunity to meet Bahman again and ask him. The train interrupted me and I cannot remember where I last left off. I think I said that Roya got to see Bahman 60 years later and ask him why he left her, why he never contacted her again, and just ask those unanswered questions that have been sitting in her heart for 60 years. This novel takes place over the course of Roya's entire lifetime, from her teenage years to her elderly years, and it is just such a fantastically written novel. It's lyrical, it's beautiful, it's heartbreaking. I always like to say, if you are a fan of Evelyn Hugo and A Little Life, in the way that spans a long course of time, so you get to travel along with this character for years upon years, you will love This Stationery Shop. It deals a lot with Iran's politics, Roya's family life, how she's trying to make a name for herself, and how she's trying to move on from this love. So this is like a bittersweet, star-crossed lovers type of historical fiction that I think everyone should read. It completely blew me away. I listened to it on audiobook, loved it so much. I wanted to get a physical copy for myself because this book is probably one of my new favorite books of all time, and I will always recommend it, so get used to it because this book is underrated. I want more people to read it. It's amazing. You have to pick it up. Now, moving on from this heartbreaking and just beautiful novel, we have a very wholesome read that I listened to also on audiobook, and it is Kiki's Delivery Service. I had no idea that Kiki's Delivery Service was based off of a book, and I immediately picked it up once I saw it, and it was just such a wholesome and wonderful read. If you are looking for a pick-me-up, Kiki's Delivery Service is a middle-grade fantasy novel following our main character, Kiki. She is a teenage witch who turns 13, and by that age, she moves away from her house and decides to find a new town to live in with her magical talking cat Gigi, and she decides to create a business where she will deliver things to different people around town using her flying broom, and it is just such a wholesome, just wonderful read. There's not a lot happening. It's like a book where it's like no plot, just vibes. You know? It's just calm, cute, whimsical vibes. If you are looking for something that is light and doesn't have a lot of drama in it, this is simply following Kiki as she deals with different customers, as she talks to her magical cat Gigi, as she makes friends in this new town, and it's a very wholesome read. It was very much character based, and I just loved reading about Kiki's little adventures. And if you love Studio Ghibli and you didn't know that it was based off of a book, go read Kiki's Delivery Service because it's adorable and it feels like the movie is playing in your mind. And if you have not seen Kiki's Delivery Service, it's my favorite Studio Ghibli film. It's the first one that I saw, and it is just adorable, and just like the book as well. The next book that I read was recommended by Grace over at GK Reads, and she read Open Water in one of her reading vlogs, and the way that she described it was just so fascinating that I decided to pick it up from my library. So Open Water is a very quick contemporary read following 2 people who meet in South London and fall in love with each other. They are both artists, and this novel just deals with their romance, their life, and their reactions to things happening in London. It's lyrical, it's heartbreaking, it deals a lot with class and race and what it's like to be Black in London, and it was just such a beautiful read. I highlighted that book endlessly because every single line was just so poignant and beautifully constructed, and it just effortlessly captured the feeling of falling in love with someone. And it's also written in second person point of view, which I thought was really unique and cool, and I liked the structure of the novel that way, and I think everyone should pick it up. I think it's really good. The next two novels I read in the same reading blog, so I'll be sure to link that down below if you want to see that, if you have not seen it before. And the first one that I want to mention is The Most Beautiful Girl in Cuba by Chanel Clayton. This is a hefty historical fiction in terms of all the history that's woven into this story. We follow three different women during the 1800s. One lives in America, she's an up-and-coming journalist. Then we follow Evangelina Cisneros. She's an actual Cuban historical figure who fought against Spanish oppression in Cuba when they colonized the island. And then we follow Marina, who is trying to help Evangelina, who gets arrested by the Spaniards, and she tries to help her break out of that prison. And I say this is a hefty historical fiction because I did not know anything about the Spanish colonization of Cuba in the 1800s. And Chanel Clayton really dives into that history and highlights the horrific actions that the Spaniards did against the Cubans. And it is just such an eye-opening read that I took a while to get through because the writing style wasn't as gripping as Next Year in Havana, which is a book that Chanel Clayton wrote, which is one of my favorite books of all time. But this one was still so fascinating and taught me so much about Cuban history that I never knew about beforehand, and it was just such a wonderful read that I am so grateful for because it taught me so much, and I feel like I'll always hold this book close to my heart because while it did not blow me away, the history that is packed into this story is just wild. The last book that I want to highlight is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This is a new adult romance following August and Jane. August recently moved to New York City and she is trying to find a place for herself in friend groups, in her job. She's just very displaced right now. And she finds comfort in a woman named Jane on the subway until she starts to realize that Jane is from the 70s. So this is a new adult romance that has a hint of magic woven into it. It has the found family trope. It is just full of adorable dialogue and amazing chemistry between August and Jane, and it is just such a wonderful romance that put a smile onto my face and I really connected to because August doesn't really know her place in the world yet and she's trying to figure out what she wants out of life, and I feel like that's so relatable for 20-something-year-olds who are just trying to figure out what they want in life and who they want to hang out with and what family means to them. So I loved the friend groups that were created in this novel. I loved how much they bonded with one another and how kind they were to one another. And I loved August and Jane. Their chemistry was palpable and I just loved their banter back and forth because Jane is a really cool character. She wears a leather jacket. She just has so much swagger to her. And then August is a clumsy, fun, soft character, and their personalities are very different, but they just blend so well together. So I loved that story, and I had so much fun listening to it. I listened to it on audiobook, and it was amazing. And I just love Casey McQuiston's writing because they write such amazing dialogue, and their banter is just something to be admired. So if you have read Red, White, and Royal Blue, you have to read One Last Stop because it's just as good, and I feel like I might like One Last Stop a little bit more. I remember when I was reading Red, White, and Royal Blue, I had a lot of trouble getting into that writing style, but One Last Stop I got into immediately when I was listening to it, and I just really love this story, so I would highly recommend that one as well. So those are 5 books that I recently read and really enjoyed. My reading year is getting so much better, y'all. It is getting so good. I remember I told you at the beginning of this year that I'm just reading 3-star reads, everything is terrible, nothing is good, but I have so many good books to recommend to you all, and I cannot wait to film another Books and Brews because I have been reading consistently 4-star reads, which is really nice for me. So if you want to connect with me anywhere else, all my social media links will be down below. I am having a lot of fun on TikTok, by the way, so if you have not followed my TikTok, it's also Stories for Coffee. I'm just creating really lighthearted content over there, and it really brings me a lot of joy, so go follow me over there because I'm having a blast, and I hope other people have a blast there too. I also have one thing I want to mention. If you have video ideas for me or like concepts that you want me to film, please put them down below because I would love to take your video ideas into account because you guys always seem to have the best ideas, so I love hearing them, so be sure to put them down below. If you have read any of these books before and if you have any thoughts that you want to share with me, put them down below because I would love to discuss them, and these are just all amazing reads that I want you all to read. I feel like we have something of everything in here. We have new adult romance, historical fictions, a cute little middle grade, and a wonderful contemporary romance that was just beautifully written. So I feel like there's something for everyone in here, except like fantasy lovers because I don't really read fantasy, but sorry about that. If you have made it this far in this video, comment down a green heart emoji to match my whole getup. So thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will be sure to see you around very soon. Bye!